Okay, we should be dealing with bundle branch blocks. The first part will be right bundle branch block. It should be a two-part topic. The first part shall be concerned with the basics, and the second part where we should look at the advanced aspects of right bundle branch block. So this is the conducting system of the heart. You can see you have the SA node here, you have the AV node here, and then from the AV node you have the bundle of His, which divides into the right bundle which goes towards the RV, and the left bundle which will again divide into the left anterior hemibundle and the left posterior hemibundle. So this is just again, you have the AV node, you have the bundle of His, the right bundle branch, as well as the left bundle which divides into the left posterior fascicle and the left anterior fascicle. From this you can understand two things. The left bundle consists of two fascicles, left anterior and left posterior fascicle. Hence, it's a bifascicle. So a block here, that is a left bundle branch block, would be a bifascicular block. While the our right bundle consists of a single fascicle, hence a block here would be a unifascicular block. The second point I would like you to remember is that the right bundle and the left anterior fascicle course on either side of the septum. So any septal pathology, for example, you have an anterior wall MI which involves the septum, can cause both right bundle branch block as well as left anterior fascicular block. So this is a term which, although we don't frequently understand what it means by. So what do you mean by the term bundle branch block? I've seen many, even DM cardiology PGs also, they don't understand what the term bundle branch block is. So to illustrate this is a hypothetical case. A 75-year-old male with recurrent VT, that is ventricular tachycardia. So we have localized that this origin of this VT is from the right bundle, all right? And his baseline ECG shows a left bundle branch block. So my question is, can you ablate the right bundle? So the patient has a pre-existing left bundle branch block, and now you want to ablate the right bundle. So is that possible? Does this lead to a complete heart block, and does this require a pacemaker? So I'll give you a second to think about it. So this is baseline ECG showing a left bundle branch block. So to understand this, you must know a bundle branch block is various degrees of slowing of conduction through one bundle with preferential conduction across the opposite bundle. So just like how electricity conducts. So electricity always takes the shortest route. So if you have two bundles which conduct at 100 meters per second, then the conduction will occur through both bundles. Suppose one bundle conducts at 100 meters per second and the other bundle say conducts at 70 meters per second. The conduction will always go to the faster bundle. So this is what. That doesn't mean that the slower bundle is incapable of conducting. It just means that there is preferential conduction across the other bundle, right? So this is the block bundle may still conduct. All right, this is the most important point you need to learn. That is, a bundle branch block is just slowing of conduction through one bundle with preferential conduction across the opposite bundle. So you can actually study the conduction properties of the bundle you want to, of the left bundle. And then if it's conducting, you can go and ablate the right bundle. So actually this was the ECG post ablation, and now you have the right bundle branch block, which is now occurred, and conduction is taking place through the left bundle. This will also help you understand the term complete bundle branch block versus incomplete bundle branch block. This is gradually reversing conduction in one bundle which slowly increases in severity. So it starts out as an incomplete bundle branch block, and as the conduction keeps decreasing, you have a broader and broader QRS complex, thereby increasing the severity of the bundle branch block. So this will also help you understand the difference between a trifascicular block and a complete heart block. All right. A trifascicular block means all three fascicles, that is the right bundle, the left anterior fascicle, and the left posterior fascicle, have slowing down of conduction, but either of them may or may not be completely blocked. But in complete heart block, there is block at anywhere. All three fascicles are blocked, and the atria and ventricle conduct and act independently. There is no atrial conduction to the ventricle. So this is the difference in trifascicular and complete heart block. So bundle branch block, it is the elephant in the room. If you just know what a normal ECG is, you see an ECG of a bundle branch block, you'll be able to say, okay, there's something abnormal in this ECG. So this is the criteria for a complete right bundle branch block. One is you should have a broad QRS complex, which is more than 120 milliseconds. Two is you should have an RS-R dash pattern in V1 to V3, the so-called M-shaped QRS complex. And three is you should have wide slurred S waves in the lateral leads, 1, AVL, V5, and V6. So if you don't have the first criteria and you have the remaining 2 and 3, then it's called an incomplete right bundle branch block. So for, if you need to say it's a complete right bundle branch block, all 3 criteria must be satisfied. So this is a morphology of right bundle branch block. One is it's broad complex, that is more than 120 milliseconds. Two, you have the RS R dash. Some say this is R prime. And the most important point, the second peak is taller. All right. So here you have 3 different patterns. You have the RS R dash pattern. The second peak is taller. You have the RS R dash pattern. Again, the second peak is taller. And you have another RS R dash pattern with the second peak always being taller. Two, the S3 is the S wave has a sharp downslope. Already the first S wave always has a sharp downslope. This is because the initial part of the conduction occurs through the normal conducting system. And the second half, that is a wide part, occurs through muscle to muscle conduction. So you have a sharp S wave, and the broadness of the QRS complex is mainly contributed by the second half. 4 is you have a wide slurred S wave in the lateral leads. There is 1 AVL, V5, and V6. So this is a very important point. You require to have a wide slurred S wave in V5, V6, 1 AVL, which corresponds to the broad part in V1, the R dash or R prime. And you have opposite sided repolarization changes. So here you can see a prominent R wave with opposite sided T wave. There's T inversions. Again, this is not mandatory. The others are usually mandatory. So what about RB with same sided repolarization? Here you can see a prominent RSR dash with a T inversion, prominent RSR dash with a T inversion. This is called discordant because this is opposite to the major polarity of the R prime. So if it occurs in the same direction, so you have an RSR dash with an upright T wave, that is it carries the same polarity of the R dash or R prime, then it indicates that there is an underlying myocardial abnormality. It could be anything. It just indicates that there is an underlying myocardial abnormality. It is no longer a simple uncomplicated right bundle branch block. So a bit on the genesis of the RSR dash or RSR prime pattern. So this is the intraventricular septum. You have the right ventricle, which is thin walled, and you have the left ventricle, which is thick walled. You have the right bundle supplying the RV and the left bundle supplying the LV. So a block at the level of the right bundle, what does it cause? So you have the initial R, which is the left to right septal activation, which takes place normally in this direction. This causes a small R pattern. S wave is due to unopposed unopposed activation of the LV, thick-walled LV. So this also takes place normally because the left bundle still conducts. And the R prime is due to unopposed activation of the RV through muscle conduction. So since this is blocked, then conduction occurs from the LV across the intraventricular septum from muscle to muscle conduction to the RV. So that is why you have a broad QRS complex, because muscle to muscle conduction is pretty slow and ineffective. And why is the R prime taller is because V1 is a right-sided lead, and since V1 sits directly over the RV, it picks up impulses from the RV better than the LV, which is situated posteriorly. So this is your typical right bundle branch block where you have the RS R dash pattern. The R dash is taller. You have the small R. You have the sharp descent of the S wave, and you have the broad and tall R dash pattern with an opposite sided T wave inversions. And here you can see the slurred S wave in V5, V6, 1, and AVL. So there's no point in knowing that this is an RVV. You need to understand the clinical significance of the right bundle branch block. In most cases, a right bundle branch block is usually normal. It occurs as a normal variant in all age groups. And the prevalence of right bundle branch block is estimated to be between 0.2 and 0.8%, increasing with age. So as age increases, you have sclerodegenerative changes taking place in the conducting system. So prevalence increases with age. And if you're able to establish that this patient does not have a structural heart disease, then it confers excellent prognosis. So they've studied athletes and aeroplane pilots with long-term follow-up showing very good prognosis and low rates of cardiovascular events and pacemaker implantation. So if you're able to establish that this patient does not have a structural heart disease, then usually it indicates very good prognosis. What about if there is structural heart disease? It can be present in any cardiac disease. You name a cardiac disease, that can have a right bundle branch block on the ECG. It can be present ischemic heart disease, myocarditis, hypertension, both systemic as well as pulmonary hypertension can cause congenital heart diseases, cor pulmonale, pulmonary embolism, valvular heart diseases, especially AS, where the calcification, which not only contains itself to the aortic valve, can extend into the conducting system. Sarcoidosis and amyloidosis, which are infiltrative diseases. In sarcoidosis, you have the sarcoid granuloma, which may compress upon the conducting system. And lastly, sclerodegenerative changes occurring to the conducting system, which may occur as part of age. So this is the most important practical point I want you to take from this presentation is what happens when RBB occurs in the setting of an MI. Right? First, about the diagnosis. A left bundle may mask ECG changes of MI. It is difficult. It is actually very difficult to diagnose MI in the setting of a left bundle branch block. You have various signs, like you have the Garbosa criteria, you have the Smith modification, and you have Chapman sign, Cabrera sign. But these are all for people who are really interested in ECG and really know how to read the ECG. For a novice, it's very difficult. But RBB does not mask. Now you can still, even a beginner can diagnose an anterior wall MI in the setting of a right bundle branch block. So to illustrate this, you have a 58-year-old male who presents with severe chest pain. From the beginning itself, you can see there is a prominent right bundle branch block with ST elevations, which are clearly seen V2, V3, V4, V5, and a bit in V6 also. So you have an anterior wall MI with a right bundle branch block. This is a so-called QRBB pattern, where the first R is gone because of the ischemia of the septum. So you have the QRBB pattern. So what does this signify? To understand this, you should know the blood supply of the right bundle branch block. The right bundle is supplied by mainly the septal branches of the LAD. That is usually the first septal or the major septal. This is the main supply. And often you have a small twig which arises from the posterior descending artery, which may occur from the RCA or from the circumflex. But the main blood supply is from the septal branches of the LAD. Also, I want to turn your attention to the left anterior fascicle. This is also supplied by the septal branches of LAD. So often you can get a right bundle branch block with the left anterior fascicular block in the setting of an anterior wall MI. So this is the LAD. You can see this is the septal and these are the diagonals. So you can see the septal is most proximal branch. So if you are developing a occlusion proximal to the septal, you will have a right bundle branch block in the setting of an anterior wall MI. So the significance is anterior wall MI with an RBB pattern indicates an occlusion proximal to the major septal. And since the septal is usually the first branch, it indicates a very proximal LAD occlusion, which in turn signifies a large area of myocardium at risk, which in turn signifies a very bad prognosis. The patient can go in for heart failure, can go in for death, and requires an immediate reperfusion. So RBB in the setting of an anterior wall MI denotes proximal LAD obstruction, large amount of myocardium at risk, hence worse prognosis. So just by seeing an RBB in an anterior wall MI, you can say this patient is going to do badly without intervention. RBB plus left anterior fascicular block in the setting of MI. Remember, the right bundle and left anterior fascicle course on either side of the septum. And so if you have a septal infarct, it can involve both. It signifies extremely bad prognosis and large area of muscle necrosis. Now the left posterior fascicle is conducting, and there's an increased incidence of complete heart block, right? So complete heart block in the setting of anterior wall MI is really bad because it comes out of the blue. It's like a thunderbolt in a clear blue sky. The patient will be doing perfectly normal in sinus rhythm. Suddenly you will have a complete heart block. And this occurs, that's what we say, it comes out of the blue. Invariably, a complete heart block in the setting of anterior wall MI goes in for permanent pacemaker implantation. And this is not true in the setting of an inferior wall MI. And in inferior wall MI, it never goes in for a permanent pacemaker implantation. It is invariably reversible. So complete heart block in the setting of an anterior wall MI, you have a right bundle branch block plus left anterior fascicular block, and then it progresses to a complete heart block, and then you have to put in a permanent pacemaker. Complete heart block in the setting of an inferior wall MI, usually it starts as a first degree heart block, progresses to a second degree heart block, then progresses to a third degree complete heart block. Invariably always recovers. The recovery is also in the opposite order. It goes into a second degree AV block, then goes into a first degree AV block, then goes in for sinus bradycardia, and then returns to normal. So invariably, it always recovers. So this is another case. You have an anterior wall MI, okay, which showing a right bundle branch block, and you can see the ST elevations in V2, V3, V4, V5. Some amount of ST elevation in 1 and a bit in AVL also. So you can straight away diagnose this is a proximal radial occlusion with a very bad prognosis if not intervened. So they have thrombolized the patient, and you can see the right bundle has disappeared. So disappearance of a right bundle branch following any intervention, it could be thrombolysis, it could be primary PCI, or even in sometimes spontaneous reperfusions can also occur in MI. It is a soft sign of reperfusion. It is not a definite sign like ST resolution of more than 70% or immediate cessation of pain. It's one of the soft signs of reperfusion, disappearance of bundle branch blocks or atrial fibrillation. So the question is, can RBB occur in an inferior wall MI? Remember, the right bundle is also supplied by a twig which can arise from the posterior descending artery. So right bundle branch block can occur in inferior wall MI, but since it's a relatively smaller area which is supplied, it does not portend a worse prognosis to a small area of myocardium. This is just for interest. The other point is, can RBB interfere with axis calculation? A left bundle can access with a normal axis, can access with the left axis deviation, can access with the right axis deviation, and there are prognostic studies also, that is which is good, which is bad. But RBB does not interfere in axis calculation. So you have an RBB does not change the axis. Just one practical point remember is, when you are calculating the axis, you exclude the slurred S wave. You exclude this part and then calculate the axis. The last point is the role of exercise ECG in the setting of an RBB. You will get an ST depression invariably in V1 to V3 in a right bundle branch block. It is recommended to look at mainly at V4 to V6 right bundle branch block to increase the specificity. So if you are doing a TMT in the setting of a RBB, if you want to have more specific results, you concentrate on V4 to V6, right? And you can still do a TMT in the setting of a right bundle branch block, which is not so in the case of a left bundle. So this is the last slide, and the next study, we shall look at the advanced features of right bundle branch block, how right bundle branch blocks exist in various situations, some names, signs, and so on. Thank you.